Today, we are diving into the mind of Naval Ravikant, one of the sharpest thinkers in Silicon Valley. We're going to unpack his core principles for building wealth, but not as some game of chance or luck. We're going to look at it as a skill, something that he argues anyone can actually learn.
Right off the bat, Naval hits us with this powerful idea. He connects wealth and happiness not as things that happen to you, but as skills you can develop. We tend to think of wealth as luck, inheritance, a lottery ticket. But Naval just completely reframes it. He's saying, no, both wealth and happiness are the result of choices, of knowledge. They're outcomes we can actually engineer if we just learn and apply the right principles.
And that, of course, is the big question, isn't it? If getting rich is a skill you can learn, what's the curriculum? What are the rules to this game that we all need to master? Well, that is exactly what we're about to get into.
Okay, so the very first step is to basically install a new operating system in your brain. It means shifting how you think about creating value and wealth. Naval's whole point is that if you get how the system really works, you can build wealth in a way that isn't just random chance. You can pretty much create your own luck.
This right here, this is the core software update. See, most of us were taught to trade our time for money. You go to a job, you work the hours, you get a paycheck. You're basically renting out your time. But the skill Naval is talking about, it's about building systems that earn for you whether you're working or not. He has this famous line where he says if he lost everything and you dropped him on a random street, he'd be wealthy again in 5 or 10 years. Why? Because it's a skill set. It's something he carries in his head.
So before we can even start building, we have to understand what we're building with. And in this area, people get 3 things confused all the time: wealth, money, and status. Nailing the difference between these is absolutely the first, most critical step.
Now here's what's so fascinating about this. Look at the games being played. Money is just a tool. It's like an IOU from society for work you've already done. Status, that's your rank. And for you to move up, someone else has to move down. It's a zero-sum, high-stress, angry game. But wealth, having assets that are earning for you, that's a positive-sum game. You can create something new that makes everyone better off. Wealth, that's what buys you your freedom. That's the game you actually want to be playing.
This is a huge mindset check. Society can be really weird about wealth, right? It often gets mixed up with greed. But here's the thing. If you secretly believe that, even just a little bit, you're going to sabotage yourself. You have to genuinely believe that you can create wealth ethically, that you can get rich by giving society something it really wants, but doesn't yet know how to get for itself.
So, if we're going to build this thing, this foundation for wealth, what's the actual blueprint? Naval boils it down to 3 key pillars that you can't do without: specific knowledge, accountability, and leverage. Let's take a look at each one.
This first pillar, it's deeply personal. Specific knowledge is not something you learn in a class. See, if society can train you to do something, it can train someone else to do it, and probably for cheaper. This kind of knowledge is found where your unique DNA, your personal history, and your obsessions all meet. It's that stuff that feels like play to you, but looks like hard work to everybody else.
And check this out. This shows you just how broad this idea really is. It has nothing to do with what you studied in school. It could be that you're just a natural at sales, or you have an obsessive personality that lets you dig deeper than anyone else. Maybe you have this amazing feel for complex systems because you played video games for thousands of hours. It's about finding that thing you were doing as a kid, almost without thinking about it, and then leaning into it.
Okay, pillar number 2, accountability. This means you have to be willing to put your own name on the line and take risks out in the open. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. You get all the blame when things go wrong, sure, but you also get the credit, the reputation, and, this is the important part, the equity when things go right. If you don't take accountability, you can't build trust, and nobody's going to hand you the keys to the kingdom. This ancient quote from Archimedes just perfectly captures the incredible power of the third pillar, leverage. Look, wealth isn't created by just working harder, by putting in 80-hour weeks. It's created by making your decisions have a much, much bigger impact. Leverage is the force multiplier for your judgment.
So Naval points out there are basically 3 kinds of leverage. The first 2 have been around forever: labor, which is having people work for you, and capital, which is having money work for you. But the third type, well, it's new, and it's the source of pretty much all the new fortunes being made today. This third type completely changes the game. Okay, pay close attention here, because this slide is so important. Look at that middle column. Permission needed. To get labor, you need someone to agree to follow you. To get capital, you need someone to give you their money. But code and media, things like creating software, writing a blog, making videos, they're permissionless. You don't have to ask anyone for their approval to get started. And their scalability? It's basically infinite.
They're like little armies of robots working for you 24/7 while you sleep. So, you've got your 3 pillars. Now what's the strategy? The absolute key is to think long-term. Short-term thinking gets you stuck chasing status and fighting these zero-sum battles. Real wealth, and for that matter, real relationships, are built over decades.
We all get compound interest when it comes to money, right? You invest, it grows, and then the growth starts growing. Well, Naval applies this idea to everything. When you invest in a relationship for years and years, trust compounds. When you build a reputation with integrity, that compounds. When you stick with an industry, your network compounds. All the really big payoffs in life come from sticking with things and letting them grow.
And now we get to the master skill, the one that sits on top of everything else and makes it all work. In our world of infinite leverage, the quality of your judgment is way more important than how much effort you put in. A single, really good decision can be multiplied 1,000,000 times over. So what even is judgment? Well, at its heart, it's wisdom that you apply to real-world problems. It's being able to see not just the immediate effect of your actions, but the second and third ripple effects down the line. And that's exactly why playing those long-term games is so important. It's the only way you get the reps, the experience you need to develop good judgment.
I love this story about Warren Buffett because it just nails the point. The best investors, the best founders, they don't win by being the busiest people in the room. They win by making a very small number of extremely high-quality decisions, and then they let leverage do all the heavy lifting for years or even decades. The goal is to get paid for your judgment, not for your time.
All right, so how do we pull all of these pieces together? Specific knowledge, accountability, leverage, how does it all fit? Well, Naval has this simple, brilliant phrase for it: productize yourself. This is the formula. Let's break it down. The yourself part, that's your uniqueness. It's your genuine curiosity, your specific knowledge, and you taking public accountability for it. The productized part, that's about applying leverage, code, media, capital, to scale that uniqueness so you can serve not just one person, but thousands or even millions. And this leads to what is, honestly, my favorite idea in this entire philosophy: escape competition through authenticity. If you're competing with people, it's because you're trying to be like them. But here's the thing: nobody in the world can compete with you at being you. When you productize your authentic self, you basically create a category of one. You've just stepped out of the race entirely.
And so we'll end on this one last, really profound idea. The world is just changing too fast. No single skill set is going to last you a lifetime anymore. That old model of learn for a few years, then do for the rest of your life, is completely obsolete. The real meta skill, the one that powers everything we've just talked about, is the ability to just keep learning, forever. In the end, wealth isn't the destination, it's just a byproduct of a much more interesting journey, the journey of perpetual learning and authentic creation.